Today's podcast is an exclusive look at a case that if you're an Unsolved Mysteries fan, you probably already know about. I had posted a version of this podcast several months ago on my Patreon channel, but we have even more information to share. Imagine the terror of being in the vulnerable position of working alone in a convenience store overnight in a big city where anyone can come in and do anything. This was long before surveillance cameras were everywhere. One minute you are there, and the next minute you're gone, never to be seen or heard from again. Let's talk about Deborah Poe. Deborah Deanne Poe was born on August 3, 1963, and lived in Northern Virginia. She had early dreams of becoming a dancer, but had not yet fulfilled them when she decided to move to Orlando, Florida, with her friend Lori Tillman in October of 1989. Deborah quickly went to work. She worked as a clerk in the retail sales department at the Orlando Sentinel. At her second job, she worked nights at the Circle K convenience store on Hall Road in Orlando. It was her second job that will be the setting for the topic of our podcast. Deborah had been working at Circle K for about 2 months. 5 nights a week, she would work the graveyard shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. This, of course, was the most dangerous shift for convenience store workers, especially ones that worked alone like Deborah. Her loved ones and friends would encourage her to quit the potentially dangerous job, but Deborah assured them that nothing bad would happen to her. She would show up on Saturday night, February 3, 1990, to begin her overnight shift. A few friends and customers would stop by throughout the night, and everything seemed fine. Then around 4 a.m., 2 people would go into the convenience store. They were surprised to find it completely empty. So now to go over the facts and speculation with us in this case is someone who has been doing a deep dive for over a year into Deborah's case, as well as a few other similar cases. She has tracked down witnesses, been given access to the entire police file, and did some amazing research to give us the most detailed account of this disappearance that is out there to date. Now, if you've listened to my Mark Reby, Sins of the Father podcast, you will remember Traci. Her and I met last year and became fast friends and work on similar and sometimes the same projects and enjoy collaborating every chance that we get. She has researched some unsolved murders and disappearances of women in Florida during a specific period of time. We'll mention the other cases she's researched briefly, but we'll mainly talk about the Deborah Poe disappearance. So Traci, I knew that you had came across Deborah's disappearance when you were looking into some other unsolved murders and disappearances in Florida, namely ones where Mark Reby is thought to be a suspect. What first stood out to you about her case?
Okay, Heather, thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure.
By the way, what stood out to me, well, we know Mark Reby and his half-brother Alex Wells. They're currently in prison serving life sentences for the murder of Donna Callahan. So when I first started researching this, one of the very first things that stood out to me was actually 2 things: Circle K and its location, which is Orlando. Now, Mark Reby, and this is before Alex was born, but Mark Reby and his family lived in the Orlando area before moving to Defuniak in 78. And he still has an aunt that lives in Orlando that he's very close to. So the location stood out to me, and also the fact Circle K, one, because we know Alex and Mark abducted Donna Callahan from a convenience store, so that tended to be their MO. So Alex had recently been convicted of trying to, of armed robbery and trying to possibly abduct a lady from Circle K in Mariester, Florida. Oh. So those 2 big things kind of stood out to me as far as Deborah's case and similar things that Mark and his brother had done.
Oh, okay. So I mentioned that the Circle K convenience store is where Deborah Poe would work overnights, and she had another day job. So first, let's talk about something that happened shortly before her disappearance concerning an unwanted customer.
Are you talking about Naked Guy?
Naked guy. We have a lot of nicknames today.
Naked Guy. So, allegedly, Deborah had a problem with a customer, and it's my understanding this man was a frequent customer, like most people were, because of its location near apartment complex. She had a lot of regulars that came in, but this guy, I think, was a pretty much a regular, and he was known to kind of be a nuisance. I think it's the guy that was also stealing beer and doing other things, but somehow, I don't know how the naked part came in, but he was naked. He came into the store, chased her around the store. She was able to get out, get to the gas pumps. He followed her. She was able to run back in and lock the door and call the police. We don't think that had anything to do with her disappearance, but it is kind of, a little comical that she had to deal with that, but also just kind of shows you how dangerous, honestly, it could be working that 11 to 7 graveyard shift that she was known to work.
Yeah, so do we know, was that just like a few days before she disappeared?
I want to say it was because working at the Circle K for very long. She had only been there maybe, a month. So I think that happened like maybe 2 weeks before she disappeared.
Oh, okay. Now take us to that last shift for Deborah. As best as you can piece together chronologically what happened during that shift. Tell us about the various people who came in, and tell us about the pretty haunting comment that Deborah made that night.
Okay. I'm going to take you back just a little bit further because I think this, I'm going to take you back to that day instead of when her shift started, if that's okay. Because I think these are things that are important. So, as if you have listened to this podcast before or seen the Unsolved Mysteries segment or know anything about it, you know that she was seeing a gentleman named Scott Iaggi. Mm-hmm. And I believe he was a suspect. I don't know if he still is at the time. But when I say dating, I say that term loosely. Everyone I've talked to said that he took the relationship a lot serious than she did. They'd only been seeing each other for a couple of weeks. Oh, wow. But he was real concerned about her working this midnight shift. But that day, they had gone and looked at houses because she was saving up to buy a house. Mm. And so they had spent the day looking at houses. And from what I've learned from neighbors, her former roommate, and other people, police reports, he actually proposed to her that day.
Oh, you're kidding. Wow.
And she turned him down. And he was not happy about it. And as a matter of fact, an argument ensued that was so loud, the next door neighbors who I've since interviewed said they could hear them arguing outside. And I think she had locked him out of the house and he was banging on the window. Whatever disagreement they had, they must have made up because when it came time for her shift that night, as what he would normally do, he would follow her there. And she got there before him, like by 2 or 3 minutes. Well, when she got there, she was relieving another clerk, and the clerk had told her, look, a girl came in here around 7 o'clock looking for you. She was with a friend. I could tell she had been drinking, and she wanted to confront you because she found your name on a receipt in her husband's wallet.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, that lady and her husband have now passed away. Mm-hmm. But I did talk to the lady that was with her. She could not remember a whole lot that night. But from the police reports and other things I've gathered, I don't think they were ever a suspect. I think it was one of those things. Her husband was a regular customer and he was trying to get his wife jealous is what it sounded like to me. But as you'll see as we go through, this was almost like a perfect storm for Deborah.
Oh, wow.
So many people, in my eyes, that could have been suspects because of everything that happened to Deborah that night. So that was one thing. So Scott came in at the tail end of that, was a little bit concerned, did not want to leave her alone. He offered to stay there because some nights, apparently, according to some witnesses I interviewed, Scott would stay there all night behind the counter with her. But for some reason, whatever, if that was Deborah really telling him to go home or whatever, he didn't stay that night. He left shortly after her shift around 11:30 and apparently went home. And there you will see some reports online and theories that he came back or he called her, but from the police report and from the interview with him, he did not come back until later, and we'll get into that in a minute. But he leaves. She starts her shift. Now, again, it's a very popular Circle K. It sits in front of a very large apartment complex. She's got a lot of regulars that come in that night. So starting around midnight, and we're going to circle back to this too, a teenager comes in. I think he was 19, 20 at the time. And he comes in around midnight, grabs a drink, says hi to Deborah. She's very friendly, talks to everyone. She's just a sweet, sweet girl. Has all these regular customers that she gets to know. He says hi to her, and then he leaves. And a few other customers come in and out. He comes back around 2 o'clock that morning to play. This was back in the day where they actually, I don't know if you remember, but they had video games inside these gas stations. Oh. And there was like a Galaga, Pac-Man right by the door. So apparently he came back, bought another soda, and was playing a video game. Witnesses described that he was dressed in like heavy metal attire. Mm-hmm. And one witness that I've actually met at the store took me through it that night. He also lived at the apartment complex. Him and his roommate very well. And when they came in, he said he noted that teenager playing the video game, but he didn't think, he said it was really strange, Tracy. He goes, I've never heard him put money in it. It was almost like he was looking out, is the way I've been described. But he had a conversation with Deborah, and he said, oh, where's your boyfriend tonight? He's usually here with you. And Deborah said something along the lines of, oh, he's not too happy with me right now. And he said, well, why not? She goes, well, he proposed, and I told him he wouldn't like my answer.
Wow.
And they were like, oh, well, let's see the ring. And she's like, no, you're not getting it. I said, no, there is no ring.
Yeah.
And so he's not too happy with me. So that backed up the story that I got from the neighbors and also her roommate that he did, in fact, propose, and she had turned him down. So I'm thinking that's the reason why he didn't stick around. Maybe there was still some hurt feelings. But they leave, and when they leave, they said that they did not get a good feeling from this guy that was hanging out playing video games. And when they left, that guy was still there. Now, there was a couple more customers that came in, and one of the customers, and according to the witness statement, the video game guy was still there. Now, this is around 2:45. So approximately, he had been in there at least 45 minutes to an hour playing video games. This customer leaves. He said everything looked fine. And then the very next customer that comes in, according to police reports, came in and the door was locked.
Wow. Deborah was still inside.
Deborah was inside. He saw Deborah. He knocked on the door. Deborah comes up to the door, and he goes, is everything okay? Why is the door locked? And this was a regular customer, too. This guy lived in the apartment complex. Or either I'm going by his witness statement. And she says, there's a lot of weirdos out tonight.
Wow. See, that's chilling.
Very chilling. Now, here's my thought. Is there somebody in the store with her at this time, and she's having to play it cool? Or did she really lock the door because someone spooked her? Was it video game guy? Did somebody else come in? So he does his transaction and leaves. He says, lock the door behind you when I leave. And he says in the police report he did not, she was sitting behind the counter when he left, and she did not follow him to lock the door, so he doesn't know if she ever locked it or not. The next report that we have after that is who we call Cigarette Lady. And this is, if you have a lot of Unsolved Mystery listeners, this
I'm
is
sure I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so this is where you're going to remember an Unsolved Mysteries where Cigarette Lady comes in. She's been out, I guess, partying all night, and there is a gentleman behind the counter. Now, what I'm not sure of if she was a regular customer or not, but she did notice that this guy could not find the cigarettes that she needed right away, and he also didn't seem to be able to run the register or make correct change. So in her mind, it was someone that was not supposed to be there. Why she didn't call the police or why she didn't do anything, I don't know. But that's where we got Megadeth Man. She described this guy as being grungy looking, heavy metal, wearing a black Megadeth t-shirt with the dragon breathing fire on it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm forgetting anything with that, am I? But that was basically her statement, was saying that guy was behind the counter. He didn't
No,
know
yeah,
what to do.
he had the skull ring, right?
Oh yeah, the skull ring on him, and I think he had a silver cross earring.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And they've made such a huge deal out of Megadeth guys. Why I chose that for the title, because oh my gosh, he did something with Deborah, and then he was, checking people out at the store afterwards. But I don't know that it really went down that way.
I don't know either, and the reason why I think when I take a look at the Megadeth picture, and again, if you're an Unsolved Mysteries fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's the witness. Police had her come in and do a composite drawing of him. And if you put it side by side on what this teenager looks like, because I ran a background check on him, and also he was in the police file, they look pretty similar. There's some similar features, let's just say that. So could that have been Video Game Guy behind the counter, aka Megadeth? I'm not sure.
Well, and let me have you tell the audience too, because in the segment he was talking about you really shouldn't smoke. But what did he actually say to Cigarette Lady that the police file said?
I don't know if that was that in there. Now that I'm thinking about that, I know that was not in there. So where they got that statement, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No, I remember you saying that there was something else that he said. It was just something benign, but I don't remember anything about you really shouldn't be smoking. I don't know if they put that in there.
That definitely was not in there. It might have been like "Have a nice night" or "Be careful out there" or something, like you said. It was something very benign, but it was nothing like you shouldn't smoke. So where that came from, and I know it wasn't an Unsolved Mysteries, but I think it was on the discussion boards. But somehow Megadeth van being parked outside came from somewhere, and there's nothing in the police reports. Nothing in the witnesses I've talked to that ever said there was a Megadeth van in the parking lot. I don't think that happened.
Yeah, and my research for the Deborah Poe back in the Mark Reby podcast, I'd never heard of Megadeth van. I think there was one mention in one article. Because you talk about distinctive. I mean, people would have seen that driving around town.
You would think. And I even looked up, you know me, I'm pretty thorough, so I went through and said, hey, was Megadeth in town? Were they playing? No, they were somewhere like in Michigan or somewhere up north. And you mentioned to me, there is another band that a lot of people compare to Megadeth, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. They weren't as famous. It was more of a local band, maybe Florida-based, but they had a very similar name. They had a very, very similar T-shirt. So was it a Megadeth T-shirt? Was it this other band? But I also could not find that they were playing that weekend. As a matter of fact, I couldn't find any heavy metal bands that were in town that weekend.
And it's possible that Unsolved Mysteries didn't know exactly the description of the shirt, so they just picked this Megadeth shirt, had him wear it, and then the rest is history. He's Megadeth guy.
Could be, because I don't even remember there being, now I didn't get the recordings, but I did get the written witness statements, and I didn't see anything where Cigarette Lady talked about a Megadeth t-shirt. She could have. I don't want to say that she did or didn't, but it could be, you're out partying all night, and if there's a similar band, similar t-shirt, I'm sure that's very easy to get mixed up.
Now, did Cigarette Lady, as far as you know, did she actually know Deborah Poe?
I don't think that she did. I'm unclear, according to the report, if she was a regular customer. I did locate Cigarette Lady.
And see, she doesn't want to be called by her name. That's why she's still Cigarette Lady.
Yes, I do. I want to honor her wishes and respect the decision. She did not want to speak with me, and her words to me were, I've given my statement, I've done my duty, and I don't want to be contacted by media. And, you have to respect that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of on the fence on whether she was a regular customer or not, or exactly who. I could not find any ties between her and like Deborah's friends, Deborah's roommate, and other people that knew Deborah. So she was either a regular customer or just happened to be passing by that night. I really don't know without interviewing her.
Well, and tell us about, you have spoken to at least two of Deborah's friends and what they had to say.
Yes. So I did, I was able to find Deborah's roommate. She was the one that was interviewed in Unsolved Mysteries. She also has declined to talk to media, except for myself. I have had several conversations with her.
Mm-hmm.
I am also protecting her identity. She does not wish to be known. She doesn't want her name out there, but we've talked a lot about Deborah. We've talked about a lot of the things. She wants to find out, obviously, what happened to Deborah and put Deborah to rest. Unfortunately, all of Deborah's family, like close family members, now she does have cousins I've talked to. She has an aunt that's still living, but her mom and dad and her brother have all passed away.
Yeah.
So this is the Deborah that's still alive that I've gotten information from, but she is very, very particular about her privacy, and I want to respect that.
Yeah, and she's still, very much upset about Deborah's disappearance, right?
Yes, I mean, I think she still holds, which she shouldn't, but I mean, I can't walk in her shoes, but she still, I believe, holds a lot of guilt about what happened that night, because it's my understanding that she was kind of close by that night and had an opportunity to go by and see her, but at the last minute decided not to, and so I think she still holds a lot of guilt. Again, I don't think that she should, but I can't tell her that, but she... they were like sisters, and I think that is even the term that she used on Unsolved Mysteries. So they were very, very close. And I've also talked to some of Deborah's former roommates from college, and they all say the same thing, just about how sweet she was. She was a little reserved, but when I think they had just moved to Orlando, she had only been there like October of the following year. She'd only been there for like 4 or 5 months. I think she was young. She was like, 23, 24. And I remember myself at that age, and she was, living her best life. I don't think she wanted to be tied down. I think she was just living her best life. And one of the things I actually found out from the former roommate, which shocked the heck out of me, is Deborah was dating somebody else, too. Now, I don't know if Scott knew this.
Yeah.
But like I said before, she wasn't as serious as Scott was about the relationship. They'd only been dating a couple of weeks. And for someone to propose that early, that had to I would imagine, scare her a little bit.
Yeah.
But she was actually seeing something. Now, I say the term loose, seeing somebody else, because apparently this person also had a girlfriend. But this person has what I found out to be a very violent past. So when I say perfect storm that night, there are so many people that could be, in my mind, suspects to what happened to Deborah, including him.
And also, I know you've tried very hard to track down Scott Iaggi, but he doesn't apparently want to speak, correct?
He does not want to speak. I did talk to, I think it was his sister, and try to get several messages to him. I know he had recently lost his wife.
Yeah. His wife is named Deborah also, correct?
Yeah, her name was Deborah too. She recently passed away. He does not live in the area anymore. I reached out to him several times. He doesn't return phone calls. And he never contacted me when I got through to his family. But I want to hear his side of the story.
Yeah.
I know he was a person of interest. If he still is, I'm not sure. The detective I talked to did not tell me. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about, because there's so many other, to me, stronger suspects in this case that I'm not 100% sure about Scott.
Wasn't there a search years later of, like, around the property where he lived at the time?
Yes, so he had, I don't know if he was a minister, but he had something to do with the church. Mm-hmm. And he, at the time, had lived across from the church that he worked at. And law enforcement told me they had received a tip. I don't know what kind of tip, who it was. They didn't elaborate, but they received a tip to search the property, the church property where Scott used to work at. I don't know if they searched his house across the street, but they did do a significant excavation around that church property. It's still there today, but they did not find anything. I was told cadaver dogs did alert. And what I know about cadaver dogs, as you know, I've done several cadaver dog searches myself, worked with cadaver dog teams, is you can get, they're only about 60%. So did they really have a alert, or were they just interested in something? I don't know, but whatever it is made them excavate, but they never found anything. So I don't know if they tested the soil for human decomp or found any human decomp, but I know they never found a body.
Yeah. So I know that you did submit a FOIA request and had to wait, I think you said, over a year, and got at least a huge portion of the police report, redacted, of course. So what would you say is the most surprising thing that you read in there?
Gosh, there were a lot of surprising things. One, I wasn't expecting to see so many witnesses. As soon as this happened, I just realized I didn't finish my timeline. But as soon as this happened, it went on the news, and a lot of people called in and said I was in there that night. So I was not expecting to see so many witness statements. And if you want me to, I'll go back to the timeline.
Okay. So
when 2:45 is when he found the door locked, the last person I was talking about, and then at 3 o'clock, between 3 and 3:15, two people that knew Deborah had driven by the store, didn't go in, but one guy went through there at 3 o'clock. Now, this guy worked at the tanning, there was when tanning beds were real popular. Yes. There was a tanning bed location right next door to Circle K, and so he knew Deborah from going in there. He said he saw her talking to a man behind the counter. Now, that's a very well-lit area. Even at 3 in the morning, I've been to that store several times. I think that is possible that he could have seen in there. It's right by a traffic light, and he said he didn't see anything amiss. Now, the second guy that drove by was a bartender from a club that she and her roommate frequented, and he saw Deborah right at the door looking scared.
Oh, wow.
Why he didn't call the police, I don't know, but he kept going. But he said she looked frightened. Now, that's the last person that we know of that saw her alive, because after that, the next person that came in was Cigarette Lady, who we talked about. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the next person that came in were two gentlemen. As far as I know, police told me they had been cleared. They came in, found the store empty, and then a third man came in behind them, said, "Hey, where's the store clerk?" The two men go, "We don't know." They leave. The third guy stays there and calls police. Now, this is almost close to 4 o'clock. Who shows up before police get there? Scotty Yagi.
Oh, wow.
Scott comes in at 4 o'clock, supposedly to check on her, doesn't know she's missing, runs into the customer. They're waiting. The police show up within 2 to 3 minutes of Scott getting there. They search the entire property, don't find her. And what they do find is her car is locked, and her purse and her paycheck is in there. And her roommate and other people I've talked to that know Deborah said it was not uncommon for her to lock her door with her keys and her purse in her car, and they found nothing amiss. Found that to be kind of surprising. Her smock was folded up neatly in the kitchen sink.
Mm-hmm.
When I went in there to visit the store, it's not a Circle K anymore, but I did talk to the gentleman that was the manager, and he said not much has changed. The layout was still the same. So the counter is like really, really long, like right when you walk in the door to the left, and the sink is still there. And there's like a little counter next to it. So I've talked to people, and they said it wasn't uncommon for her to take off her smock. So I don't know if she was wearing it. We couldn't get really an answer from anyone if they remembered if she had her smock on or not. Yeah. But it wasn't uncommon for her to take it off. But there was nothing amiss in the store. There was no signs of a struggle. But just the amount, I would say just the amount of people that came in that cared about Deborah, that said, hey, I want to tell you I saw her and this is what I heard, was very surprising to me. And also just the amount of people that possibly could have caused her harm.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very dangerous shift to work. And again, I keep saying perfect storm. I think that there was something that was just bound to happen.
And that night was so crazy, but that was probably a typical night there for her.
It probably was, especially if you account for Naked Man a couple weeks before. But Lori said she wasn't worried. And even the college roommates I've talked to said Deborah could handle herself. You know, she came from a family of I don't want to say what he did because I haven't been able to verify it, but her dad was former law enforcement, like high up, big law enforcement. So she, even though she was tiny, you know, they said she could handle herself. She wasn't afraid. So, you know, and this was back in the day where nowadays I think that it's law. You have to have at least 2 people working a graveyard shift. But back then, you only had to have one person. And I think it was just too much.
Yeah. Well, and bear in mind, a lot of people listening to this only know about this case from what Unsolved Mysteries told them. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about her disappearance? I mean, when I talk to you...
I have talked about this, but I think one of it is Megadeth fan. I probably have read those police reports, and it's a pretty big file. I think I've got, you know, except for the recordings, I think I've got a good chunk of it. Could not find one thing about a Megadeth fan. Now, I did find something. They did say Cigarette Lady, when she was leaving, there was an old Pontiac or Plymouth that had driven up as she was leaving that had a good amount of rust on the side of it. But there was nothing in the file that suggests anything about Megadeth fans, so I'm not sure where that came from.
Wow, that's crazy. Megadeth guy's not even in the police report.
Well, Megadeth guy is in there, but they don't call him that. Megadeth, there's a sketch that she provided, and there is, you know, the T-shirt description, but Megadeth van is not in the police reports.
I wonder if that came out later.
It's not.
Yeah, and it could have just gotten from the Megadeth shirt, all that, into the van, you know, just how things trickle through and then they get changed.
There was a witness that I talked to, not a witness, but there's someone, I'll tell you this, I can't say much about it because this is a lead I just got in not too long ago, and I haven't reported it, I haven't talked to anybody about it in public, but I will say this, there was a really good lead that we got from someone that knew Video Game Guy, and she said that he had access to a van. It wasn't a Megadeth van or anything like that. It was more of a work van. Now, again, there's nothing that I've seen in the police reports. Now, I might not have everything, so there could be something in there that I'm not privy to. But there's nothing that I've seen that suggests that there was a van in the parking lot, only this Pontiac or Plymouth.
Yeah.
So maybe a news reporter, the only thing I can think of, saw that van and then Megadeth guy and maybe got the two confused or mixed up. But she did say that he had access to a van.
Oh, okay.
That's something I'm looking into, so I'll keep you updated. But right now, that's all I know about that.
So what do you think happened to Deborah Poe that night? And do you think that it involved someone that she knew?
I don't think it was someone that she knew. I think it was a crime of opportunity. I've gone back and forth with Scotty, other guy that she was seeing, because he did have a violent past. Scotty Aggie has no record of a violent past. Of course, you and I know that doesn't mean anything, but this other guy does. So he's definitely on my list, but part of me thinks it could have been just a crime of opportunity. There have been a couple of theories that it might have had something to do with her dad's work. Again, I haven't found anything to confirm that, but I just think someone either had their eye on her, I don't think it was anyone that knew her intimately, but I think it was someone that probably, just like Mark Reeby and Alex Wells, just, saw her and took her. Now, Alex, Cigarette Lady, did identify Alex Wells as in a photo pack lineup. And the detective that I talked to, the main detective, he's now retired, that worked that case, told me they wrote the case off to Alex Wells. Did you know that?
No, but Alex was very adamant that he was on, house arrest, and there's no way he would have been in that area.
Now, he was on house arrest, that is true. He was on probation. I don't see anything that said house arrest, but he was on probation. That doesn't mean he couldn't have gone down there. And his half-brother, Mark Reeby, again, they're both serving life sentences for another convenience store murder. Mark Reeby confessed to Deborah Poe, to some close relatives.
And you just learned this recently, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was shocking, yes.
So you have her brother who was picked up in a photo pack lineup. You have Mark who confessed but recanted. And, and then you have these other people that are good. So it's just, to me, it's just, my mind just spins. Because, again, you have so many people. So I'm looking right now for some connections between Mark, Alex, and video game guys. So far, I haven't found anything. But you have to kind of take a step back, I think, in these types of cases, especially cold cases where a lot of people passed away, witnesses don't remember, people are hard tracking down. But you really have to kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture, and also see if there's maybe some connections that were overlooked. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is seeing, any of these people that came in there that night, are they connected to anyone else that we know about?
Yeah, so you're not only researching Deborah's case, but you're also actively trying to find her, as well as a few others, which is great. So tell us what other cases you're currently working on along with Deborah's, and do you think any of them could be connected, which we just briefly talked about a little bit.
Yeah, so, when you and I first started talking, a little over a year ago, that I started looking into these cases when I saw the Pamela June Ray story. She disappeared in Panama City in August 12th of 1992. Now, Pamela's never been found. And I had contacted you about that case. We started talking, and then that's when I read your blog and started looking at some, Donna Callahan, other cases, and realized these look like these could possibly be connected, because where I live in Florida is where 80% of these cases are from. Now, Deborah Poe is is it the only one? Is the only one that's not in that area. Orlando is about 5.5 hours south of where I live and where a lot of these cases are. But you have Bonnie Ryther, who we believe Mark Reeby was involved with. It might have been his first murder, and that happened back in 1978. And then you have Jackie Brandt, who also was an unsolved homicide from Panama City in 86. You've got Lindsay Sams, who was also murdered in 89. Then you have Donna Callahan, that's who they're in prison for. She was taken from a convenience store, and they were convicted of her murder, and they found her body very, very close to where Mark and Alex grew up. That happened in 1989, and I believe studying her case might be the key to cracking these other ones. And then you have Andrea Durham, who's our youngest victim. She's never been found. She was just shy of 14 years old in February of 1990, just 4 days before Deborah Poe disappeared. Because Deborah Poe disappeared February 4th. Andrea Durham disappeared February 1st from Fort Walton Beach. And then you have Rhonda Taylor. She was found murdered in her car, not 500 yards from where Mark Reeby's wife worked at a convalescent home in July of 1990. And then you've got Pamela June Ray, which is our last case. She went missing again in August of 92. So those are the cases that we're kind of focusing on. There's a few other ones that may be connected, like Linda K. Carroll, but there's some other viable suspects for some of these cases. But, he did confess, Mark Reeby did, and then recanted when he went, I'd say 3-4 months for Donna Callahan. He called Dennis Haley, who was Florida Department of Law Enforcement, who had been investigating him for years, and said, "You need to come down here. I've got a confession." And Dennis sat down with him, and he confessed up to like 20 murders.
Yeah, wow.
But then he recanted a few months later. So you have some law enforcement that don't, I would say don't know, but are like not sure if he really was just saying that, and then you have some law enforcement that do believe that he was, including Dennis Haley, believes that he's connected to at least 8 of these cases, and those are the cases that I just talked about. So those are what we're looking into right now. We've done 4 cadaver dog searches for Pamela June Ray and Andrea Durham and Deborah Poe. We've come close. We do have some things that we have found that are in testing right now that we're still waiting on, and we've got some other things going on, and we've also gotten some other law enforcement involved in helping us try to find out what happened to Rhonda Taylor. They're looking back into her case right now. Lindsay Sams, there's some retesting going on of evidence. DNA's come a long, long way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of physical evidence in some of these cases that they still have that's being retested right now. So I do feel we're close, Heather. I feel like we're close in some of these other cases and finding out if Mark and Alex were really involved.
That's great. Well, Traci, I want to thank you for joining me on this podcast and giving us a sneak peek into all the work you've been doing on trying to bring a resolution to Deborah Poe's disappearance, as well as other cases. I'm sure we'll be seeing all of your hard work in these cases culminate soon in a big project that will have all of our interest. I also want to add, for those who don't know, that you are already a published author of several popular books. Tell the listeners the names of some of them and where they can find them for purchase.
So the books I have out right now are actually fictional. This is the first case that I'm writing. It's true crime, but I do have a popular series out called the Rachel Scott series, and you can find them on Amazon. Asylum Harbor, Burnout, Cut and Run, and Deceptive Measures, and Look for Me. All of those can be found under my name, Traci Hohenstein, on Amazon.
That's great. And I know that you've been working a lot on your TikTok, and you have a pretty big following. And in fact, I will be appearing on your channel soon in a live that we're collaborating on about true crime. So tell the listeners how to find you on TikTok.
You can find me on all social media platforms under my name, Traci Hohenstein, or Traci Hohenstein Author. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. But I'm super excited. You and I have kind of a super secret project that we're going to be working on here pretty soon. So definitely give it a follow so you'll be able to listen in.
And if you have any information about any of these cases, you could contact me or tracihohenstein@gmail.com.
Yes.
So Traci, once again, thank you. This was very informative and pretty much the only place out there you can find this kind of information about this case, because you've really done a tremendous amount of work.
Yes, I have. Thank you. It's something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's something that we're gonna keep doing. We've got the ball rolling. We've got investigators back looking into these cases, so I do feel like we're close.
Well, take care, and we look forward to your next project.
Thanks, Heather.
It is so chilling to think about that last night for Deborah Poe. She was working at her second job to earn money to accomplish some goals that she had in life. She was used to dealing with strange customers, so what was different about that night? Hopefully we can find out those answers someday and sort out the truth from speculation in this Megadeth mystery. That concludes my podcast on the disappearance of Deborah Poe. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a 5-star rating or review where you listen to your podcast. You can find all of my other podcasts on Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. I am also excited to announce that you can now listen to my podcast on YouTube as well as YouTube Music. You can also read all of my articles on my website at Lost and Found Blogs, and you can reach me by email at lostandfoundpodcast@yahoo. And remember that cold cases stay cold because their story stops getting told.